So, Star Citizen 3.0 recently came out. I think it's been about a year since I last made a Star Citizen video, and most of that is just because the last version, 2.63, really was kind of lackluster for me. It wasn't that it was bad per se, but they had disabled a lot of functionality in preparation for testing new systems and getting things ready. And so, as far as a playable game, it was worth it. It was fun, but I had issues with my ships being balsa wood, and I couldn't really adjust a lot of things that we'd had previously. And it kind of killed some of the fun factor for it. It was also very obvious that CIG had pretty much disabled a lot of stuff in this one to kill off the version 2 thread, as it were, and it needed to go. Now, 3.0 was originally scheduled for release last December, so it's been about a year late, about a year delayed in getting released. There's a lot of good reason for that. A lot of it is this is the first actual playable portion where most of the core gameplay actually exists in some degree. Far from finished, but you can actually do a lot of what they had advertised you being able to do. You can do missions, you can talk to players through the comm system, which I'm showing right now on the screen. You can actually go back in and modify ship functionality, so you can modify your power settings, you can turn systems on and off, you can turn your engines on, you can turn the whole ship off. You have a lot more in-depth and an actual UI that you can play with now. You can also go to and land on planets, you can haul cargo, you can do some interdiction. There's a lot more to come with a lot of this, but the first actual playable systems are in place now, and it really shows as far as the stable back end. Now, previously in the 2.6, all of the 2 version really, I was getting about 20 to 25 FPS. This server that I'm playing on right now, I happen to have 60 FPS, and wow, did it make a massive difference to have that level of FPS. Unfortunately, this server crashes, so I have to relaunch. And the server I get put into, I was at about 28 to 32 FPS, but it was stable there. I had a few minor dips when something massive loaded in or something like that, but it didn't detract from what I was doing. So 3.0 is going to be a ton of fun to play, and now that the Delta patcher is in, they can actually do live releases. So when they have something new, they can just push it straight out to the game, and we can have it. They're also supposedly going to be planning quarterly releases, so 3.1 is supposedly due out in 4 months. Now, I highly doubt that's going to be stuck to in any way, shape, or form, but at least they're trying to get stuff going since they have most of the core systems in place. Somewhere about June, July, there was a great ATV Around the Verse episode that talked about all the assets that they'd built, all the systems they'd put into place, all the monumental back-end work that had been developed and finally was kind of done so they could start developing and building and flushing out their world a little bit. And that's kind of where a lot of the delays came from. They had to build all the tools, the assets to start developing the game. They changed engines from CryEngine/Star Engine to Lumberyard, and then they had to build all these assets and start developing things and making them work. And they still have a long way to go. But the game is actually somewhat of a game now instead of just this isolated tech demo in a small remote section of the environment. So I just switched ships because the previous version crashed, and now I'm back at the same location at Yela, and I'm flying down to the surface. So I've sped it up because in real time it took forever to fly there. The controls are still a little bit funky. They totally jacked up a lot of the basic controls. You have some access to go in and make them more advanced again, but they dumbed them down. I look forward to playing a lot of this game. In part 2 of this, I do a quick cargo mission. I hadn't originally planned on doing it, but I really wanted to check out the Aurora changes and then just said, you know what, screw it. Let's go fly out to this place, grab some cargo, and come back. And it was a beautiful experience, so look forward to that in the next part. What I want to talk about now is kind of some of the problems with 3.0 and a little bit about what caused some of the delays. So the first portion a moment ago, I just mentioned that they had to build a lot of the assets, get it going. This is the first full actual release where you actually have a game instead of just a tech demo with a small portion of the universe with little bits tacked into it so that you can test and play things. Because of that, it caused a bit of a delay. The next part of the delay came from feature creep, where they kept trying to shove this, kept trying to shove that into the game. Now, we know that they have a ton of different teams and a lot of different personnel building stuff. So the concept artists that are working on 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and even 4 and beyond really aren't impacting 3.0's development by their work on other stuff. What led to a lot of the issues and the misconceptions with that was in Around the Verse and other shows, you saw a lot of this future work being talked about and some other things, which kind of made players think, well, you're doing everything but working on 3.0, which isn't exactly the case. But they did try to cram a lot of features in here, and a lot didn't make it. But those extra things that they put in there to improve the gameplay and make it more fun really did add to a lot of the delay. But we can understand they're building something that's never been done before. Now, some of the bugs I've had. Earlier, when I was in my Super Hornet, you could see that my main blasters on the wings were not actually attached to the ship when my gear were deployed. Slight issue. Now, in my 315, you can see I've got the HUD problem where the planet is kind of shining through on what's supposed to be my area radar. Bit of an annoyance, but again, it was really cool to fly down to Yela for the first time. You can see there I landed and I bounced off my springs, and now I'm trying to stay on the ground, but I keep lifting back off. I shut my engines down and this happened. I sort of flipped around and ended up on my side, which was a little odd. And I was stuck in the get out of my chair animation, so I had to wait and kind of go, okay. And then I had to climb back into my seat, take off, and attempt to do all of that again. So this time I decided to do it from the outside, and I had the same problem. I couldn't get the plane to land properly. So I decided, screw it. Let's just cut the engines, and we'll just drop onto the surface with no thruster control. And you can see here I'm still trying, and boom, it smashed the back of my ship. So instead of blowing up, I throttled up. The controls were all over the place, so it took me a moment to regain control of my ship. And then I said, all right, let's do this the old-fashioned way. And just cut power and fell down onto the planet's surface nicely. So I was able to get out of the ship. Now in the PTU, when I first got here to Yela, my FPS was terrible. And a few people had mentioned on various forums that it could have been due to the system caching the shadows and things, which it made sense. But I don't have that problem now, and I did a complete fresh install of the live build of 3.0, so I'm not sure what was going on or what happened here. And you can hear what sounds like gunfire, the little thumps in the background is my ship kind of bouncing on and off the surface, and even I turned around going, okay, what's bouncing around? But outposts. So these are new little structures that they've littered around different aspects of the planet's surface that you can actually look at and play on. So this is just a little emergency shelter that I came to. So if you're stranded on the planet, you can come here, get some recharge, get some food, have a nice night's sleep, what have you. And you can hear the music triggered when I got here. It's just a little subtle change to the gameplay, and it really helps with the immersion. Since we're in a different company now, they have a different style airlock. But it was really cool to kind of come in here, roam around. It looked like people had lived here. And as they develop their NPCs further and get the animations and things much smoother, then you'll be able to actually come to a place where there's some NPCs and talk to them. Now, there's not much that goes on here, so I didn't stay around very long. But it was certainly awesome to be here. And if you look on the left side of my screen, you can see the rings around the planet now. If you've seen any of my previous videos, I always complained that the rings around Yela didn't really look very convincing. Likewise, in 2.6, they'd removed a lot of the spatial features, so space just looked vague, whereas right in front of you can see there's nebula, there's a lot of the stuff that has been put back in that really makes it feel much more dramatic. And having the rings, you can see the asteroids in most of the rings now. The draw distance has been improved. And then since they have the light reflecting off of that, creating a misting pattern, it looks so much better. Now, I came straight from Crusader, and I'm right here on the surface of Yela, flying away from the base I just did. And I'm flying away, and I wanted to go check out Grim Hex just to see where it was, any changes, lighting differences. And I forgot that one of the changes they'd been implementing was the orbiting of planets around the star and then planet rotation. So you get day-night, or the day-night cycle. And I'm flying towards Crusader, and in a moment I'll pull up the new star chart. And it was kind of surprising to realize, oh, Grim Hex is on this side of the planet now because it's orbiting and moving, which was just awesome. So I loved that fact. So I'm actually right now flying towards Crusader and Grim Hex at the same time, which was awesome. Now, the star map. It's a fantastic thing, but it needs a few tweaks to the UI to make it a little easier to actually utilize. You can also see when I quantum into the asteroid field, I kind of freak out because I'm flying at an asteroid, and you don't get control of your ship back immediately. So I'm like, turn, turn, turn. But with the star map, you can kind of see on the HUD in front of me how they've added a lot more features to it. So when you get close to objects, you actually see the objects. You can go down there and zoom in and change it to the actual map and change it and go around places. Or you can use your Mobi-Glass. By hitting F2, you'll pull it out and you'll be able to select where you go. We'll look a bit more at that in part 2. But the UI is a little bit cumbersome. You can see that my HUD all looks kind of small, and if you look at the top left with my radar screen, it's really low res, so some of the star map is hard to read, some of the functionality is a little lost right now because of the graphical issues. It's kind of a known problem. I've seen a lot of people in the forums complaining about that. So hopefully they get that fixed pretty soon, but Grim Hex now being shrouded in the shadows, the subtle music cues because I'm at a sort of a pirate outpost. Just that subtle change really gets you into it, really immerses you into the feeling of it. And then you look out and you see the destruction of the station from the attack. You see the mist in the rings, showing the particulate in them. Just a ton of fun. So the last thing I wanted to show was that ship on the side bug. I spawned my Dragonfly for the first time to get to see it, and well, this is how I found it the first time spawned on its side. So bugs, yes, but it's so fun to play. I look forward to some of the work that they put forward, and again, we'll continue this discussion in part 2, but 3.0 is a huge jump forward and a huge amount of progress made to the game, and it is definitely worth playing. So if you have a starter package, definitely jump in and play. The next video I do, I'm probably going to throw my yellow jacket in the back of my Freelancer and head out to do some cargo runs and maybe check out some other planets. I haven't done any combat yet, so I can't really address the combat situations. I'm still trying to get the controls fully worked out, and when my ship's flipping out like that, it's kind of hard to figure out what's going on until I get it oriented properly. But 3.0 is awesome. So thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.